What if I told you a band wrote a massive, chart-topping ballad as a complete joke, only to have it become the very thing that destroyed them? They were artsy, weird, wanted to be the next Beatles, but their label and MTV turned them into a disposable hair band against their will. They got the fame, the money, and the platinum record, and it made them miserable. Here's how Saigon Kick's biggest hit became their biggest curse.
Like, subscribe. Thank you.
So it was 1992. Music world was a war zone. On one side, you had the glitter and hairspray armies of glam metal, clinging to their power ballads and Sunset Strip swagger. On the other, you got the flannel-clad forces of grunge, rolling in from Seattle, digging on the old heroin and ready to burn everything down with angst and distortion. Caught directly in the crossfire was a band from Miami that didn't fit in with either side. Saigon Kick was a strange beast. There were four guys, Matt Kramer on vocals, Jason Bieler on guitar, Tom DeFilly on bass, and Phil Varone on drums, who looked like a hair band but didn't want to sound like one. Their debut album had some of the thrash metal DNA, certainly, but it was mixed with weird, off-kilter riffs and a sarcastic streak a mile wide. They were more interested in Jane's Addiction and the Beatles than they were in Poison and Motley Crue. And their label, Atlantic Records, didn't quite know what to do with them. They saw four guys with big hair and loud guitars and thought, okay, another glam band. Let's market them that way. The band, especially the main songwriter, Jason Bieler, had other ideas. He was a music nerd, a studio rat who loved complex arrangements, weird harmonies, and sonic textures. He wanted to make art. The label wanted to sell units. This conflict was a ticking time bomb, and the fuse was about to be lit by a song that Bieler wrote in about 15 minutes as a goof. So while working on their second album, The Lizard, the band was deep in their own world. They were recording a sprawling, psychedelic, totally bizarre collection of songs. Heavy, groovy tracks, acoustic numbers, songs with sitars and lyrics about everything from serial killers to philosophical musings. It was a glorious mess of creativity. And the label, meanwhile, was getting nervous. They heard the demos and couldn't find a single. They're like, where the hell is the hit? Where's the song for the radio? Where's that ballad? We gotta have our power ballad, man. And the record label was the golden ticket of the era. Every hard rock band needed one. It was the song that crossed over, got the girls to the shows, made the band a household name. Bieler, annoyed by the constant pressure, decided to give them what they wanted, but on his own sarcastic terms. He sat down and, almost as a parody of the formulaic ballads dominating the airwaves, cranked out a simple, sappy acoustic number. It had a sweet melody, heartfelt lyrics about love and distance, and a big sing-along chorus. He called it Love Is On The Way. He barely thought anything of it. It was like a throwaway inside joke. So he plays it for the band. They kind of shrugged. It wasn't for them, but whatever. They recorded a quick demo and sent it off to the label, probably with a smirk, thinking that that would shut them the hell up. It did the opposite. The execs at Atlantic heard this song, and their eyes turned into dollar signs. This was not a joke. It was a certified smash hit. This is it. This is the single. Bieler, he was horrified. That song, the throwaway joke, this was going to be the song that represented their weird, eclectic masterpiece of an album. So he argued and pleaded. He explained that The Lizard was a journey, a complex piece of work that couldn't be summed up by its most simplistic, most commercial track. The label didn't give a crap. They wanted to make money. They saw a straight line to the top of the charts, and they're going to take it. The band was contractually obligated to deliver a music video, and the label made it clear which song they would be filming. The video was everything the band hated. Moody, black and white affair full of slow motion shots of the band looking wistfully into the camera. Singer Matt Kramer was front and center, emoting for all that he was worth. Pure, uncut, early 90s power ballad cheese. And it worked perfectly. MTV put the video in heavy rotation. Radio stations added the song to their playlists. Suddenly, Love Is On The Way was everywhere. It climbed the Billboard charts, peaking at an incredible number 12. The album, The Lizard, which had been selling modestly, exploded. It went gold and then platinum. Saigon Kick, the weirdo art rock band from Florida, were officially rock stars, and they're absolutely miserable. The success of Love Is On The Way was a poisoned chalice. On one hand, they were playing to huge crowds, selling records, living that life they dreamed of. But on the other, they were living a lie. The thousands of fans screaming for them every night weren't there for the weird psychedelic freakouts or the heavy groovy riffs. They were there for that ballad. They're the same fans who swooned for Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison and I Remember You by Skid Row. They held up lighters and sang along to every word of Love Is On The Way, and then looked totally confused and bored when the band launched into some whacked out sitar-infused track like The Lizard or the abrasive rocker Hostile Youth. The band felt like frauds, a cover band of their own worst impulses. Bieler, in particular, just hated the situation. He had poured his heart and soul into creating a unique, challenging album, and the only thing anyone cared about was that one song he did not take seriously. Total creative nightmare. The disconnect between the band's artistic identity and their public image was massive. They're marketed as a hair band, lumped in with acts that they felt zero connection to. Then, just as they reached the peak of their unwanted fame, the grunge tsunami hit. Nirvana's Nevermind had been released a few months before The Lizard, and by mid-92, the entire musical landscape had shifted. Party-hardy ethos of glam was dead. Authenticity, or at least the appearance of it, was everything. Now, what was less authentic than a glam-looking band from Miami playing a sappy power ballad? Saigon Kick was instantly rendered obsolete. They were on the wrong side of the culture war, and their biggest hit was Exhibit A for the prosecution. The internal fallout was just as brutal as the external one. The pressure and the identity crisis ripped the band apart. Matt Kramer, the face of the band and the voice of the hit, was the first casualty. The relationship between him and Bieler had always been tense. Kramer was a charismatic rock and roll frontman. Bieler was the introverted musical architect. They're a classic odd couple, and the stress of their misplaced fame pushed their partnership to its breaking point. Accounts are a bit murky. Some say Kramer was fired. Others say he quit, but the result was the same. Shortly after the tour for The Lizard, the singer on their platinum-selling top 20 hit album was out of the band. It was a shocking move that made no commercial sense, but for Bieler, it might have been the only way to reclaim the band's soul. He decided he would take over the lead vocals himself. It was a bold, almost arrogant move. He was sending a clear message. This was his band, his vision, and he'd no longer compromise. The remaining members, now a trio, went back into the studio to record their third album, Water. It was their chance to finally show the world who Saigon Kick really was. They doubled down on the weirdness. Water was a darker, groovier, and more experimental album than anything they had done before. It was heavily influenced by the Beatles, King Crimson, and the alternative sounds that were now dominating the airwaves. There were no fake ballads or attempts at radio-friendly singles. It was a dense, challenging, and deeply personal record. It was the album Bieler had probably wanted to make all along, and it was also a commercial catastrophe. Atlantic Records had no idea what to do with this album, Water. They had just lost the photogenic frontman who sang their only hit. The band were trying to sell as a pretty boy pop metal act, had handed them this dark, brooding art rock album, right as their target audience was abandoning them in droves. The fans who had bought The Lizard for Love Is on the Way listened to Water and were completely bewildered. Where's that sappy love song ballad? What was this sludgy, strange music? The album was released in 1993 to almost complete indifference. The label barely promoted it. MTV, which had made them stars a year earlier, ignored them completely. The album stiffed, failing to even chart. The band that had sold 1 million records just months before could not even get noticed. It was brutal. And Bieler's gamble had failed, unfortunately. By refusing to play the game, he had lost his place on the board. The band's career was in a nosedive, and the irony was painful. The musical direction of Water, with its heavier tones, introspective lyrics, was actually closer in spirit to the grunge movement than their previous work, but it was too late. They were already branded. To the grunge kids, they were just another fake hair band. To the hair band fans, they were now this weird, depressing art band. So they had nowhere to belong. They toured for Water, playing to smaller and smaller crowds. The momentum was gone. The magic, even the twisted magic, of their unwanted success had vanished. So the band carried on for a few more years, releasing another album, Devil in the Details, on an independent label, before quietly dissolving in 2000. Jason Bieler became a producer and continued to release music under his own name, embracing those eclectic tastes without the pressure of a major label. Matt Kramer tried to launch a solo career. The hit that should have set them up for life instead became an anchor that dragged them to the bottom. Love Is on the Way was not a blessing, it was a curse. A 15-minute joke that had the last laugh on a band that just wanted to be anything other than what that one song actually made them. They flew too close to the sun, on wings that didn't even build. And the crash back to Earth, well, it was devastating. To my subscribers, thank you so much, you frigging rock. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, smack that subscribe button. Join the family. Smack the like button. Hell, give it a hype too if you want. And I want to thank you so much for watching.